Hi, Gillian. Lovely to see you. And today we're going to be talking about your new book. Would you like to just tell us a little bit about yourself for those who don't already know you?
Thank you, Mitzi. I'm delighted to be talking about my book, obviously. For those people that don't know me, I've had a long career in public financial management and working at different levels in government, in parliament, for regulators, and indeed the accountancy profession. So I've had a unconventional career, let us say.
And that's involved a huge amount of travelling, which of course is what the book's about.
Absolutely. And in fact, my career has never been a straightforward path in terms of climbing the sort of hierarchies. It's been moving about in different spheres and hence really sort of the title of my book, where the unconventional routes came from, because that's a reflection of my career, which spans well over 30 years.
Yeah, around the world from boardrooms to backpacks. And Gillian, what was it you were hoping to really achieve from the book? For someone who's going to be reading it, who's it for?
All sorts of things, really, Mitzi. In the first place, I never expected to be writing a book, and the inspiration came from several people at different stages. When I moved roles or positions and had the opportunity to combine finance and policy with travel, it opened up a whole world to me in terms of international travel, and that's not for a lot of people in terms of some people wouldn't like to be on a plane jetting across 43 countries over a couple of decades. So it's not for everybody. So what I wanted to achieve is to have a book which is a tongue-in-cheek type of book, which talks about what it's like as a woman traveler, to be traveling all over the world, sometimes to very nice destinations and sometimes to fairly challenging destinations. And the audience for it, really, I think it's a wide range from teenagers through to retirees who are interested in travel, who are interested in what it's like as a woman to experience the highs and lows of travel.
And you said that it was over 2 decades. So, of course, when you started out, it was a very different world to be travelling in, I'm assuming, though.
Yes, it was a very different world. We didn't really have the technology that we have now, and that would make a very big difference to the role that I was in at the time. So there would be less of a need to be jetting everywhere to have face-to-face meetings, and you could be more strategic about having those meetings, whether through mediums such as Zoom or Teams, rather than getting on a plane and spending 14 hours jetting halfway across the world. So the position or the role that I was undertaking was very, very different, I think, today.
And in terms of the actual travelling, though, as a woman on your own, going into some really far-flung places, the logistics, the practicalities, the ups and downs of that must have also changed over those 2 decades.
Yes, I think it has, but also I think that women travel in a different way to men in terms of thinking about your risk appetite. So I think women are less likely wanting to arrive in a strange country in the middle of the night, alone in a strange airport, and not knowing in terms of who you're going to be meeting to take you to your final destination. So you tend to be a bit more risk adverse, but when you read the book, you'll find out I wasn't doing the sort of typical sort of being adverse to risks. And at times, I think I put myself in some fairly risky situations. So all of this is outlined within the book, and sometimes it can be quite hilarious, the situations you get in, but other times it can be quite frankly quite dangerous.
Can you give us a couple of highlights just to give us a flavour of some of those situations?
I can remember arriving in Pakistan for the first time in bed about 3 o'clock in the morning. So I hadn't planned at all in terms of my flight to arrive in the day. And I was met by a driver, and to be quite honest, you're a bit apprehensive in terms of whether this driver is for real or whether it's an imposter who's about to kidnap you. You're never quite sure. There are various security checks that you make. But we walked into the car park, and his car was blocked in by another car right at the back, so we couldn't move. He left me sat alone in the car with the locks on. I was being stared at by all sorts of men who were just mulling around and obviously very nervous, and it was dark. Next thing I knew, he came back with a forklift truck and lifted the car that was blocking us in high into the air and went off with it before arriving back at the car. And that was laughable in some ways, but things that were going through my mind was that somebody deliberately blocked us in for some reason. It's those sorts of little events that are brought to life within the book.
So, Gillian, what would you say is some of the key lessons that you've learned that you would hope maybe young women starting out might get from reading your book?
I think I've learned to appreciate much more the cultural differences, certainly in the countries that I've traveled in, but also in terms of the different ways of working and the importance of collaboration and listening as well to respective plays within those countries. I've also gained, I think, a deeper understanding of the social and economic situations within different countries, which has given me a very wide perspective of the challenges that they face, which in some cases are not dissimilar to the UK. And I suppose one of the other lessons is that whilst you can work hard and I did a lot of travel, you can also have fun and enjoy the time with the people that you meet and learn from them and their different perspectives.
Yeah. So finally, Gillian, to finish up, what's perhaps the most memorable incident that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, there are so many, Mitzi, and they're outlined in the book. The book is written as a diary, and there's quite a few moments from being in Belize City and traveling to radio program at 6 o'clock in the morning to be featured on Love FM and fitted in between some disco pop music type of songs that were playing. And you have to read the book to find out how I made a fool of myself there. But there are many moments like that I've laid out, really, some of the hilarious situations I find myself in.
Brilliant. I look forward to reading it. I've already ordered my copy, and I'm sure it will be a fascinating read. And thanks so much for joining me today to talk about it.
Thank you, Mitzi. Thanks for inviting me.